Hi folks, welcome to this week's Inside Track, the Scottish Sun. I've got Jim Delahunt here in person with me again after last week's technical disaster. Good to see you, Jim. You looking forward to this weekend's racing?
Yeah, good to see you, Robert. Yeah, all looking well for this weekend. Obviously, the big meeting in Ireland this weekend at the Curragh. Looking forward to that too. Classics over there, the 2000 and the 1000. And after that, they'll be building up to their Derby in the Oaks, which comes midsummer for them. It comes a lot quicker for us here in Britain. But Kelso racing on Sunday as well, which we'll get to later. A strange sort of Sunday where there's three jump meetings and no flat meetings in Britain, which is very, very odd when you think of the time of the year it is. But obviously, it's the classics at the Curragh on Sunday that we're going to look at first. And on a week that the French Guineas was back in the news, Robert.
Yeah, it was no surprise they lost the appeal for She's Perfect, is it? We thought that last week.
Yeah.
French rules, you play by French racing, you play by their rules, so it was no shock. I mean, I take it you weren't surprised either.
No, I said on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it at the moment, that I just hoped he didn't lose too much money in the appeal because it did. I'm not saying it was frivolous, but it didn't seem to have too much hope the way they went into the appeal. And once the French stewards make their decision, they've made their decision. As far as I could see at the time, we discussed this last week. The rules are the rules in France, and the rules were broken as they stand. And I didn't really think the appeal had much hope of succeeding, and that's the way it turned out.
Yeah, I mean, the other story that's come out this week is that apparently there was a plan to make the Derby a week-long festival. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds bizarre to me. I mean, it's not going to happen. If there's one thing racing needs, or does it need, it's more races, isn't it?
Yeah, that Derby meeting. I mean, we all love the Derby, we all love the Oaks, but that Derby meeting tends to be padded out as it is, with some very ordinary races, and I'd have been very surprised if they'd gone down that route. But maybe it shows they're thinking, Robert. Maybe it shows they're trying to think about things that they can make racing better. So we'll give them some credit.
Well, less is more. That should be their message. Anyway, we'll move on to Haydock. We've got the Sandy Lane Stakes. I believe you fancy one in that, Jim.
Yeah, in the Sandy Lane at Haydock, it's two big sprints at Haydock on Saturday. Very interesting, and they're both open to 3-year-olds, but only one of them is confined to 3-year-olds, and that's the one you've just mentioned, the Sandy Lane Stakes over 6 furlongs. And it really should be the battle of the Applebys. No relation, of course. Mick Appleby and Charlie Appleby. They produce big contenders for this race on Saturday. The one I really like is Big Mojo. It's trained by Mick Appleby. Jason Hart, who's in tremendous form, young Scotty. Well, he's not so young anymore. I hope he's watching and he can wind me up later. But Jason rides this one for Mick Appleby. Big Mojo came out last time and won, despite the fact the trainer suggested he might need the race. He's very much in the mould of another previous Appleby sprinter called Big Evs. They were no relation whatsoever. They just happened to have a similar name because they were in the same ownership. But Big Mojo is a horse which I thought ran well last year, promised a lot, ran fourth in the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. And I think that this horse is going to be a big sprinter this season. He was running for the first time since a wind operation last time. I think that's why Mick warned everybody that he might need the run, but he certainly didn't look it, and he won very, very well. But he also won in the style of a horse which you would think would improve even more. So this looks a logical step to me, going 6 furlongs at Haydock Group 2. And of course, this is technically a trial for the Commonwealth Cup Group 1 at Royal Ascot. That seems to be the target for Big Mojo. And I'll be a bit disappointed if he doesn't win this, because I think this is well within his compass. But I think you've had a look at Charlie Appleby's horse here.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to be good to beat Symbol of Honour, who
Yeah,
we both fancied Ides of March last week. He beat him at Newbury. I mean, Appleby's just flying just now. I mean, 15 winners with 34 runners in the last 30 days.
yeah.
He's had 4 winners for 10 at Haydock this in the last 12 months, sixth placed. I mean, I think I agree with you. It's between these two. It certainly looks that on paper anyway. And I mean, I like Big Mojo as well. So it's maybe one for a forecast, Jim.
It might well be. Let's hope the Applebys are certainly in the frame, and I'm quite hopeful about Big Mojo. I know what you're saying about Charlie Appleby's horses and Symbol of Honour and William Buick in the saddle. We can't really beat that combination. But Big Mojo, I think, is a horse very much on the upgrade. He goes for this 3-year-old race. I think he's well on his way to Royal Ascot. I think that Breeders' Cup form is very indicative that they thought he was a very good horse last year, and that's very indicative for this year. So Big Mojo for me. Symbol of Honour, I know you think will run well, but the other big race on the Haydock cards, another sprint, and it's a 5 furlong race this time. Open to 3-year-olds. There is one in it. That's Grand Marquis for Fozzie Stack. He brings that over with Kieran Fallon in the race. But I think the one we're all interested in here is Jim Goldie's runner, American Affair. I was all over this horse at York last week. He won very well indeed. Jim targeted this Group 2 on the way to a possible run at Royal Ascot. He's got him in that Group 1, King Charles III. Robert used to be called the King's Stand. He's got him in that Group 1, so he'd really have to win this one on Saturday if he's going to go to Royal Ascot and compete in a Group 1. And I've just got a hunch that he might win it. I really do. The thing I'm going to point out here is that Jim might have a line as to how good a horse you need for this race, and that's a horse called Jack Dexter, which Jim trained a few years ago, about 10 years ago now. And Jim sent Jack Dexter down for this exact race, the Temple Stakes at Haydock. And at that time, Jack was rated 109 and he was only beating a neck. Now, after winning at York last week, American Affair has been put up from 98 to 105. So in terms of sprinters, that's only half a length. So, but we've got to be talking that these horses are in the same ballpark. And Jim must know that American Affair is in the right ballpark rating-wise to run a big race here. Now, the other interesting thing, before I witter on too much about this, is that Paul Mulrennan has said all along with this horse, despite the fact he's 5, he's still learning. He's still a bit of a baby, and he's still coming on for his racing. So the fact that he won so easily in that handicap last week, I think augurs really well going to this Group 2. And I thought it was a huge price, absolutely huge price at 8 to 1 last night. Yeah, I think it's an absolutely huge price. So American Affair is very much going to be my selection. And the very fact that he is big odds, I think will save each way as well.
Yeah, yeah. The one he's got to beat, I think, looks like Rumstar, just taking a line through York. I mean, he gave Tropical Storms £9 in the Palace House at Newmarket.
Yeah.
That came out and won a listed race at York last week. So, I mean, Rumstar for Jonathan Portman, Rob Hornby looks like the one he's got to beat. But I think we'd all love to see American Affair win, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we really would. And the very fact that Jim's going for this race, I think it's a good move. He knows that he has to show it at this level if he is going to go for that Group 1 at Ascot. And I think we said last week, Robert, that when Jim sends horses to Ascot and Goodwood, he rarely misses the target. So if he thinks this horse is good enough for a Group 1, it's got to be good enough for a Group 2 at Haydock. And I think 8 to 1 with that each way proviso, because you might as well take the place if it's that, or if it's going to be that price. I think it might win. American Affair.
Yeah. What about Beverley, Jim?
Yeah, Beverley, always a good day at Beverley. Hilary Needler Day. It's a big day locally down at Beverley. The Hilary Needler Trophy is the one for the fillies over 5 furlongs. I'm going to leave that one alone, although I think Ali Shuffle, which won at Chester, will probably try and make all for Carol Burke and Sam James. But the one I'm interested in is the 2-year-old trophy, which is more or less for the Colts and Geldings. It's over the same 5 furlongs. It's also worth the same £50,000. And I think it's very interesting that Andrew Balding's sending a horse for this. It's a maiden. It's a once-race maiden. It ran at Ascot, bumped into 2 very good horses. That was just 2 weeks ago. He was a real eye-catcher for me before I even thought he might go for this race. So Old as Gold is the one that I really fancy for this race. He's up against 3 previous winners. And the interesting thing about the conditions of this race is that those 3 previous winners are only carrying half penalties. So normally you would get a £4 penalty for a win, but they're only carrying £2 penalties because they were wins in restricted races, which suggests that they're maybe not out the top drawer. That's the ones I'm talking about: Ice Cold Alex, Rakeb and Tropical Dreamer. So Old as Gold gets £2 from them. I'd rather it was 4, but he gets £2 from them. PJ McDonald, very much a go-to jockey for a lot of the southern trainers when they send horses up here. He's a bit of a veteran now. Of course, he won when he was a jump jockey. He won the Scottish Grand National many, many years ago. But Old as Gold is the one I fancy at Beverley. And I'm hoping that he's going to be a half-decent price, Robert.
Yeah, I had a look at Goodwood, and it's actually caught my eye that Emma Lavelle's running horses over 7 furlongs, which I never thought you'd ever see. But in the 130, she's got Silver Ghost, which the former at Newmarket wins worked out really quite well. The second's won since there. I mean, this one's up to 87, but we'll have a bit more to come. But I think in that race, rare change for Richard Hughes and Warren Fetterman, claiming 5.
Yeah,
very interesting. I mean, he's had two wins in 9 days, winning at Windsor and at York last week. But I thought he was a pretty big eye catcher at York last week because he got dragged wide out of the stalls, got bumped to his right, was sitting stone last 2 furlongs out and just weaved through horses to get up to win. He's up £3 for that, I think. And is Warren Fetterman's only had 2 rides at Goodwood earlier this month and finished second on both of them, giving both of them really good rides. So it's his first ride for Richard Hughes. So I suspect Richard Hughes has watched those 2 rides and thought, you know what, this boy knows what he's doing round here. It's got a nice low draw. So I just think if he gets a clearer passage this time, if the boy Fenterman's £5 works out well for him, I think rare change at 71 is probably worth a bet. And then the 315, the Height of Fashion Stakes. This one, f- Perfect Your Craft was one that came out at the back end at Salisbury and won really well on heavy ground.
Yep.
You could see it about 2 furlongs out. The penny just dropped, and it motored home. So I thought that was an interesting one to follow this season. I notice it's 7-1 now. The question is, how does it handle the quicker ground? It's first time out as well. Is it trained on from 2 to 3? Although it's not a huge time that it's been off the track, but I thought Perfect Your Craft was definitely worth a second look in the 315 at Goodwood.
Well, I've got good news for you before we move on to the Curragh, because there is juice in the ground at Goodwood. It's good to soft at the moment, and they are expecting some showers. And I did notice Rafe Beckett in his stable tour before the start of this season, when he mentioned Perfect Your Craft, he did say he would like a trial where there was juice in the ground. So obviously he's missed these ones last week where there wasn't juice in the ground. He goes there on Saturday, and I think you're definitely up the right tree there, Robert. And just before we move on, in terms of rare change, I saw young Warren Fentiman riding the air the other day. He's a very good young jockey. And I think most punters will know this, but we'll repeat it anyway. When these young apprentices start showing ability, you've got to latch on to these claims now. He's already lost his 7. He's got his 5 now. He'll be down to 3 pretty soon indeed. And just think, less than a year ago, we were getting £5 for Billy Loughnane. And I think that was really worth its weight in gold. So young Warren Fentiman, son of Duran Fentiman, who of course is back riding after injury. So he'll probably come up against his dad a few times this season. But a very good young jockey. I've really liked what I've seen of him, as have you. And I think you've got 2 great chances there at Goodwood. But what about the Curragh on Saturday?
Well, I mean, the big question is Field of Gold going to get the redemption for John Gosden under new rider Colin Keane? I mean, he's odds-on favourite when I looked earlier on. Deserves to be odds-on favourite given his run at Newmarket and all the excuses that were there with Kieran Schumacher's dodgy ride. I mean, how differently do you think Keane will approach this race?
Well, I did think, and I think we discussed it at the time, I did think Field of Gold should have won the Guineas with hindsight. I didn't think he would have won it beforehand, but when I saw the race back, he should have won it. And of course, we don't need to go over all the Schumacher stuff again. But in terms of Colin Keane, he is very much the local maestro over there. He's 4 times, I think, champion jockey in Ireland. He's won a couple of Irish classics in these exact Abdullah Judmonte colours, which he's going to be wearing on Saturday. He won on Westover famously in the Derby a couple of years ago, and he won this very race on Siskin for Ger Lyons back in 2020. I think he will had a long conversation with John Gosden about this horse. They know that this horse needs every yard of the mile. I don't think they'll sit as far back as they did at Newmarket. And I think Field of Gold is a very, very worthy odds-on favourite now. We all hate backing odds-on. We'd rather they were odds against. But I think 4-5 on Saturday, I think that's a rock solid bet, because I think Field of Gold is the best horse in the race. I think he's got the best jockey in terms of the local knowledge. And I think that's a rock solid 4-5. So no opposition to Field of Gold this weekend. And I think they said to this morning, the clerk of the course was on social media this morning saying that they were going to get 4 millimetres on Friday afternoon and another bit of a soaking on Saturday. So I don't think there's going to be any excuses for anybody on Saturday. I don't think the going is going to be rattling fast. And I think Field of Gold will prove himself, as he sire did. Kingman, having finished second in the 2000 Guineas, went to Ireland and gained his redemption in the Irish 2000 Guineas. So Field of Gold for me, it's not original, but I think he's going to win this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Keane will have watched Kieran Schumacher leave the horse far too much to do. That'll be in his mind, so he'll change his tactics to suit the horse, won't he?
Very much so. And I think he'll get it right. I don't think you get anything to worry about with the jockey on Saturday. I'm pretty sure, having seen the horse at Newmarket, that he is a classic winner in waiting. And they've already said I think he's going to go for the St James's Palace win, lose or draw, but I suspect he'll go off the back of a classic win.
We'll move on to Sunday, where, as you said, there's no flat action in the UK, but there's 3 jumps meetings. We've got one up here at Kelso. 248, Jim. Spartan Warrior for Rebecca Menzies. Brian Hughes looks like an obvious chance. I know that's one you like. You want to make your case for that?
Yeah, it's going to be small fields at Kelso, but we're just delighted they're racing there. Obviously, it's difficult to water the entire track at Kelso with the watering system that they have, but I'm sure the hurdles track will be absolutely fine. It's all hurdles races and a bumper at Kelso on Sunday. Rebecca Menzies trains Spartan Warrior. Brian Hughes, I think, has ridden it every time it's run over hurdles, and it does appear to be on the verge of winning a race. It doesn't look a great race. I suspect, having seen the field, we're not going to get a great price, but I'll certainly make him the one and only selection at Kelso on Sunday. Spartan Warrior with Rebecca Menzies, a trainer, and Brian Hughes on board this 4-year-old. Brian, of course, despite the fact he's not in contention for championships anymore, still riding out of his skin and riding a couple of winners for his wife, Lucinda, as well.
Yeah, the one I would flag up as the 323 is Wee Alki, who was second to a horse called
Yep.
Our Girl Sal earlier this month. Only gone up a pound for that for being beat a nose. Thought it was a great run that day over course and distance. He put the cheek pieces on this time as well as the tongue tie. So if that brings out a wee bit of improvement, makes him concentrate a wee bit better, I would expect Wee Alki to get his head in front.
Yeah, I feel a double coming on, Robert. So I'll be having a look at those prices on Sunday morning. And just before we go, I want to mention the Irish 1,000 guineas on Sunday, which I'll be getting into some detail on in the diary column in the Scottish Sun on Sunday. But the horse I really fancy, and I think you should take an early price here because I think people will latch onto this. Swelter for Dermot Weld, 4-1 at the moment. I think this could go very, very close to favourite. Lake Victoria is the favourite at the moment for Aidan O'Brien, but I think Swelter, the way she won the trial at Leopardstown was hugely impressive. Dermot Weld was interviewed on Racing TV straight after that race, and he said she'll be going straight for the Irish 1,000 guineas. He was true to his word. He hasn't decided, he hasn't gone for any other race, and that was quite a while ago, that trial back in March. Swelter is the one for me, and again, she's going to be in the Judd Monty colours. And this time it's going to be Chris Hayes. And Dermot Weld, incidentally, has won this race 2 of the last 3, and he's also won at 6 and all. So he's going for a magnificent 7. I don't think Swelter will be 4-1 on Sunday.
That's great stuff, Jim. Thanks very much. Good luck with your bets this week, folks.
Good luck, everyone. Thanks, Robert.